Welcome to Game Crunch, your weekly video game podcast. My name is Mike Anastasia. With me today, we got Brandon.
Hello.
And we were talking about
That's-
games and things.
yeah, we're gonna talk about them.
So on the agenda this week, special episode, game debate episode.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about games that have aged well. That's the goal.
Yep.
So we put some rules on it last week. So nothing in the current gen, nothing in last gen. They at least have to be like, 2 gens old.
Yep.
But yeah, obviously we'll talk about games that just, probably, despite how dated they are, probably cross into that timeless kind of era where it just doesn't matter that they came out, doesn't matter how dated the graphics are, but the gameplay just works well long for overtime. So all right, we haven't really talked about how we want to do this though. What do we want to do? Just take turns talking about games, or do we want to do it
Yeah,
by
I think
system,
that's that's a good point.
Mhm.
Let's
Just
start
see
with
where
like
things go?
the 32 and like 16-bit systems and like that sort of shit. Let's do that. Let's do that. 8-bit. Let's do all that shit. Let's do that.
Oh,
Let's
okay.
start with that.
Yeah. All right. All right. Well, why don't we start with 8 and 16-bit at least, I guess, first.
Yeah.
Those are kind of similar-ish. I would say we talked about it last week, and I think it kind of ended up in our after episode clips. But I think maybe one good place to start is just stuff that we know that works really well. And one company that did really well with that was Square Enix on the 16-bit stuff, Super Nintendo. I think RPGs do hold up pretty well for a few different reasons. Gameplay, you could have some, I guess, maybe some dated mechanics in terms of like RNG, or I know one thing that's stupid annoying in this day and age is random battles. But I think that a lot of the Final Fantasy games, like Super Mario RPG, those I think do really well.
Absolutely.
Really well. They look great. They play well. Their mechanics hold up so well that a lot of them are even still kind of copied to this day and age. So I think those are kind of good, maybe like starting examples of stuff that's like, you could pick this up, you could play it today, and even though it's an older platform, you're still going to really enjoy stuff that's out of there. Chrono Trigger, another good example from like the Square Enix era, wherever we got. And I think too, especially with more so, I think on Super Nintendo than NES, it's able to convey a story very well. Not that the NES can't. I think it's just harder with just the limitations that they have. So they can't hold as much data like some of those older RPGs that are like on the NS. I think gameplay well maybe do okay, but not always on the game story side of things, just because there's limitations too, especially because of the way the localization worked back then. Like they were really trying to make everything fit into the same text boxes as Japan without any modifications, so they were kind of stuck with like I can only do so many characters, and they can say a lot of things with a few characters in Japanese, but not so much in English. But yeah, I would say that's kind of my first thought. Those kind of Square Enix RPGs. What about you? I don't know where to go.
Okay, so that you pretty much took one of mine right out of my mouth, but before even saying it, pretty much any Square Enix RPG was 100%. Like it just aged well. They're classics. You could still play them. I want to say the Mega Man X games aged really well on Super Nintendo. Like the starting ones, they were really good. They're really good. They're still really good. There's a reason why we got a collection for them, because they're still awesome. I do want to go back to the 8-bit for a second. I will stand by this because I recently got the collection for free on Epic Games, and I sat down and played through it again. And I also had played through it when it was on like both the Super Nintendo and the NES Classic. I still think to this day that aside from Simon's Quest, every single Castlevania game has aged incredibly well. That's not 3D. Every single one of them. I don't know how you feel about this. I really like Castlevania, and I really think that they still look like and play incredible in modern times.
I haven't played through a lot of them.
Uh-huh.
Most of my Castlevania, I played through the first one, and I think I played through bits and pieces of the DS ones.
1, 3, Symphony of the Night are fucking classics.
Yeah.
Like
Mhm.
you can sit down and you can play those, and it's just awesome. Super Castlevania, classic, awesome, aged incredibly well. Every single one
Mhm.
of those games have aged incredibly well, is what I'm trying to say, essentially. The Game Boy Advance ones have, and so have the DS ones as well. We actually just recently got a collection of the DS Castlevania games,
Correct. Hmm.
which are really good. So yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, my main point is I think Castlevania as a whole has aged very, very well, except for the 3D ones. The 3D ones just no, no, no.
Yeah, different beast. 3D games
Yeah.
definitely do not age as easily as 2D games, I think, in some ways.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, that was that. Other NES game I think does really well. I think this one's, a gimme, but it kind of goes, along with it. The like
Just
Mario
Mario,
3.
Mario 3. Yep.
Um,
I mean,
Mario 3 I just
I would have gone as far as to be like Mario 1 is also very good. I still think Mario 2 is really good. I played Mario 2 again back when it released on the Game Boy Advance,
uh-huh.
and and I still think that game is just really fun. It's very different, but I feel like with age, people have become more receptive to Mario 2, and as such, it has aged well.
Oh, I agree. Although my asterisk on that would be, I think that the subsequent releases of Mario 2 have aged well. And granted, they would still fall into this. I would mean, like, when I say that, I mean like
Very
Mario
little's
All Stars, Mario 2.
changed
Huh?
with Mario 2 on NES and the other releases, hasn't it?
Versus versus
Versus the
say the Game
original.
Boy Advance and
Yeah,
the
yeah. I don't think there's
um
much change, is there? I mean, I might be
eh,
wrong, but I can't really think of it right off the top of my head.
I mean, there's definitely some little things, like they made it so that it's easier in terms of um, progress saving.
Mm.
Obviously, in the NES one, there was no progress saving, so you had to kind of do it in one
Oh,
go.
well, okay. All right, I
Hmm.
understand that.
Yeah,
I mean, that's the same with the original, like Mario.
yeah, which is why I didn't say the original Mario either. But
Really?
Mario All Stars, I would say much better
Hmm.
for both of those games. That I would say that one's actually probably more timeless than any of them. Um,
Hmm. Well,
because it
yeah,
just
that's just
it
all.
makes them all so much more accessible
Hmm.
when they are, like I said, maybe not unaccessible on the NES. Like I think I agree with you. I think Super Mario Brothers 2 very playable.
Hmm.
But if you give that to like someone now who's not familiar with kind of the older stuff, I think they'd struggle a little bit more with that versus say the Game Boy Advance or the All Stars edition, just because of the nice little additions that are there. But no, I agree. I think that they all do hold up at the end of the day very well. So, and although I think Mario 1 kind of falls into, there's certain sections of that game where it's more, the game is more important than it is good kind of thing. But I still think that it holds up well. I don't think it's no Metroid NES by any means, which I think
No,
is
but
unplayable garbage. Yeah.
I do think we need to step over back to the Super Nintendo for a second
Hmm.
and talk about Super Metroid because I think that game has aged incredibly well.
I think that game aged well.
Hmm.
Um, I feel like I was going to add a but on there, but I don't think I'm going to. I think it's aged well. I think it's a game that's going to get remade to add
Mm,
eventually, to add in more like quality of life things,
okay.
because people get lost too easily in it sometimes. But I do think that for a lot of people, just picking it up and just going, like they can, like the game is just designed very well for that, to be kind of
Yeah.
natural.
Well,
Um,
it's kind of like Mega Man X I was talking about. Like that
mhm.
game is designed so your eye catches little instances of things, and the game teaches you how to play the game. Uh, by like what you're seeing on the screen. Like you learn, oh, I can jump over this thing because like you see a spot and you're like, oh, okay, what do I need to do here? And then you're like thinking, okay, this thing is collapsing. I need to jump now. Oh, okay. Oh, I jumped and I jumped into the wall. Oh, I can wall climb. Okay. And like the game is like very good at like teaching you all of that stuff without like holding your hand and being like, yeah, this is how you do it. It just teaches you it through experiences.
Mhm.
And that's why I thought Mega Man X. Back to that for a second. That's my main reason why I think Mega Man X has aged incredibly well.
Yeah, and I think those kind of things are, reasons why a lot of those games do, because they had to do. they had to teach players a lot of things
without
kind of
like
like
just outright
organically.
telling them.
Yeah.
Exactly,
Mhm.
exactly.
Exactly. And that is definitely something that Super Metroid did, like kind of when it teaches you to wall jump. But a lot of people are like, I don't understand. It does still kind of run into there. Or
I
that
was
thing where
going
it's like,
back to that was I was talking about Mega Man when I saw it teach you how to wall jump, but Super Metroid does too.
yeah, no, that I was thinking about Super Metroid. I know you were talking about Metroid, but I was still mentally thinking about Super Metroid when you said that. Because
How many
those
times can we say
those
Metroid and actually mean Mega Man? Because you just did it by mistake once, one more time afterwards. You said, "I know you're thinking about Metroid, but I was talking about Metroid," and I was like, "Oh, okay."
yeah, no Mega Man. Think about Mega Man, but I'm thinking
Mhm.
about Metroid. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, no, there are definitely still some instances in there, but I would say, yeah, I'd still think it's very largely a timeless game
Hmm.
overall. I think that it's aged really well. It looks really nice. The music's timeless. Um, really not any major issues there on that side of things, I would say. Trying to think what other oh, actually no, another 8-bit game. We talked about this last week. Um, I I think that Link's Awakening holds up really well.
It does.
I think it's limited kind of by its controls because the Game Boy only had two buttons.
Yep,
Um,
yep. But
which
it's totally fine. It's great. There's a reason it
Mhm.
got remade because it is a great game at its core, and as
Oh yeah,
such, yeah, it didn't really need that much to continue to
no, they
like
really did.
be
They're just
good.
like, here's some more buttons and here's a
Hmm.
nicer looking gameplay, and that's it.
Yep.
Like everything else is great. Yeah, I think that one does really well for that regard, and I think it's simple enough and well built enough that it
Yep.
doesn't have some of the issues that maybe some of the other games do have. Like I think that comparatively to say like classic Zelda and NES Zelda, like I think
Hmm.
Link's Awakening would make that list, but I don't think I'd put Zelda 1 or 2 on that list.
I wouldn't
Uh,
either, but I would definitely put Link to the Past on that list.
yes, Link to the Past
That
is
game
definite.
is
Mhm.
just incredible. It aged just the best. I think it's still one of my favorite Zeldas, but I do want to hop away from the 16 and 8-bit for 1 second because we are
Mhm.
talking about Zelda, and I gotta talk about the Zelda game that has aged the absolute best, and it's fucking Wind Waker. Wind Waker is a game that everyone poo-pooed on, many people poo-pooed on, when it was first announced and the way it looked and the cell shaded graphics and yada 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 blah blah blah, and a lot of people didn't even give it a chance. And
Mhm.
then a lot of people that did play it, it still has aged really well. Yes, I know you probably want to say a but in here because of like the sailing around the ocean and yada 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 blah blah blah, and how they had to add the extra sail. But I didn't really find that to be that obnoxious initially because you were exploring the ocean, you were a pirate. It was like part of the game. I didn't think it was that bad at all. Some people may
I
feel
know
that way, but
that was
I
just a
don't know.
quality of life thing, but
Yeah,
I don't actually, I
I
agree
don't
with
think
you. I
that
don't
was
think
the
that's
game aging bad, though. I think,
Mhm.
like you said, exactly. That's a quality of life thing. The game aged well. You can play the original Wind Waker right now, still, and it's still fantastic.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I don't think there's any. I mean, there's definitely reasons why, like, I might not rank it as high as some of the other Zelda games, um,
Mm,
in terms of timelessness. But I
mm.
agree. I think that game is still very playable, in its
I'm gonna be
GameCube form.
honest with you. When I think of timelessness, the first two Zelda games that come to mind currently are A Link to the Past and Wind Waker, because I
I'd probably go
personally
like
think,
more Ocarina in there, but mm.
well, when I think of timeless things, I do think of things that haven't aged very poorly, and I think that Ocarina of Time and the Majora's Mask have aged poorly.
Oh,
I
I
think they're
disagree.
good games. I think they're
Mhm.
good games, right? But I think there's a lot of things in those games that have not aged well. Now, if we are like talk about the 3DS versions of those games, I think they did a lot of things to make them age better, but I do not think they aged that well. That's
But
just my
really,
opinion.
but you say it's like, oh, they did these things to make them age better. Like the Ocarina version,
Hmm.
I mean, they didn't. I mean, I'm trying to think. I know they made it like look better, but they
Hmm.
really didn't change a lot of like gameplay stuff. They made it
Mm,
so like the boots were not not like a switchable, equipable item, as opposed to it's like you can use it like your normal items, like to turn it on and off. Like those kind of things were nice, but I don't think they necessarily were limiting factors to enjoying the game previously.
So I think a lot of the limiting factors to enjoying the original iteration um Ocarina of Time is the control scheme, and I do think the control scheme on a lot of N64 games have aged incredibly poorly.
The control
And I
schemes
think
are
the
like the
Ocarina
same as Wind Waker.
No, it's not.
It's not that much different
No.
because it uses the same 4-button setup for your items. You're still controlling with the joystick. You're still locking in with whatever trigger your left finger's on. You still use the camera to reset or you still use the trigger to reset the camera.
But the camera in Wind Waker isn't is no.
You don't need free control over that camera that often in Zelda games. Not like that with the way the camera's set up.
Okay, all right. I'll take a step back and I'll concede that maybe I'm just being more harsh towards N64 games, and I'll just take a step back and go back to the 16 and 8-bit, and I'll just say this: I think the game that's aged the best out of every single game ever, and I will stand by this 100% until the day I die, is Tetris. It's Tetris.
Oh, I mean, Tetris is pretty timeless. Actually, they had the
Tetris is literally timeless.
They had the Tetris 99 event was this weekend for
nice.
classic NES Tetris. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, no, that game did.
I love NES Tetris. Like NES and Game Boy Tetris are incredible. I love both of them. I have them. I have the cartridges of those still sitting on like my shelf somewhere because I love Tetris so much. Same with Dr. Mario. I think Dr. Mario's. Yeah, I think Dr. Mario is really great as well.
Yeah, I think puzzle games are very easy to kind of be timeless.
Puzzle games are so easy to be timeless. Yeah, and they're great. I think like Puyo Pop's been around for like fucking forever, and had like a resurgence recently with the Puyo Pop 1 and 2 that came out on Switch and PS5 and this, that, and the other. I mean, I think that's a really good takeaway. I think puzzle games are very timeless and have aged incredibly well over time.
Yes. In my head, I'm trying to think of ones that like maybe aged like poorly, but usually I think that depends more on like the puzzle game itself. Like if you have the core mechanics down, like you're good. Like it's so hard.
I'm sitting here and I'm trying to like rack my brain as well. I'm like, what has not aged well that is a puzzle game? And I can't think of anything. Zoop, maybe? Is it Zoop? Is that the one that was on on Super Nintendo?
Don't even know. Never heard of such a thing.
Yeah, maybe Zoop. I don't know. Maybe if I played Zoop right now, it'd still be good. I don't fucking know, man. Let's see. Puzzle games. Super Nintendo. Well, I'm gonna look and see if I can think of any that maybe not. I'm just like looking here, and like the first thing that pops up is Wario's Woods, and I'm like, that's not even bad, is it? It's just Nintendo likes to release it a lot.
And Yoshi's Cookie.
And Yoshi's Cookie, yeah. There's nothing bad about either of those games. They're a little bit oversaturated. Bomberman's not bad. I like Bomberman.
Bomberman's not bad. I think I mean not a puzzle game, but it's same as Bomberman. Pac-Man, I think aged really well.
Pac-Man, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And Miss Pac-Man aged even better, I think.
Yep. I used to have arcade cabinets of those. It was really fun.
Yeah, those are games you can literally anyone can pick up and play them and do well with them and not be like, oh, these graphics are stupid. Nope, it still looks the same.
It's still Pac-Man. Who gives a shit? Shut the fuck up.
And even when they put out new Pac-Mans now, like they don't look totally different. And if anything, they go too far with the graphics. Like the timelessness of Pac-Man, the simplicity is part of the magic, I think, with that.
Oh wait, hold on. There's a new Pac-Man game. What is this called? It's not new. I'm lying, but it feels like it's new because I have no distinction of time whatsoever. But Pac-Man 256, that one. Do you remember that one?
No.
It's like an infinite runner of Pac-Man, but it's still Pac-Man. And like the infinite runner aspect of it is like the kill screen is slowly coming up as you continue to try to go through Pac-Man puzzles, but you're going upwards the whole time you're doing it. It's really good, and it has the core idea of Pac-Man. And I remember that game being very fun. And I'm sitting here looking at it right now, and I'm like, this didn't even age poorly. And this came out in 2016, 2015, somewhere in there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like some of that stuff, yeah, a little different, but yeah, I think for the most part, some of those kind of classic, those more classic arcade games, I think
hmm
generally did. Like the ones that you knew for a reason, like there's probably a reason why it's timeless. Um,
You know what I think? And this one's I don't think the original Mortal Kombat aged well. I do think 2 and 3 did, but I don't
yeah,
think the
no,
original one did.
choose where they really kind of hit their stride. I
Yes.
agree with you there. Yep.
I really like Mortal Kombat 2 and 3. They're very good games. And I
But
do
I think
think
it's
those
like you
aged
see that a
quite
lot with
well.
like different fighting games. Actually,
Yeah,
interestingly, topically this weekend we were talking about Smash Brothers, and like if you think about it, like Smash 64 did not age well, but Melee timeless. Um,
timeless, absolutely. Yeah, I think the problem is it was on the N64.
yeah. Well, no, I think it was really like at that time, if you remember, like they were just so not sure about Smash Brothers.
hmm
Like if I don't know if you remember, like there was talk, they're like, we don't know if we're gonna get this crazy
hmm
Japanese game. Um and then it ended up coming out and it was a huge hit. But I think they were so skeptical of it before it released that they
hmm
were like I think they were like, let's just do like a proof of concept kind of fighting game with no frills and see
Yep.
how it goes. And that's what they did. And then obviously, it just became immensely popular. And I think we saw that with a few games on N64. Um, but I would say something like, for example, like I actually think like Mario Party 1 and 2 are like maybe the more timeless of like,
Yep.
the first couple
Absolutely.
generations of Mario parties.
hmm
Because I think that they played really well, and I think they had a lot of like great, just good features. Definitely, you could make a case that somewhere between Mario Party 3 and 10 that they kind of went too far and were trying to like one up themselves and make unnecessary changes. I mean, if you
Yep.
listen
I
to the
agree with
episode
you.
where I was talking about Mario
100%.
Jamboree, like it seems like they pulled that, but yeah, I think like those kind of original N64 Mario parties I think hold up really well, and I think they're still very playable these days. Um, Actually, I think a good proof of that is the fact that what was it, Mario Party Superstars that they put out on the Switch. We're like,
Yep.
hey, here's the old boards and the old
And
games,
they're
just kind
all
of with
great.
better graphics.
They
Yeah.
are all great. Yep.
hmm
100% agreed. I think that I actually think
Uh-huh.
the original and the GameCube Mario sports games aged incredibly well. I think anything after that is a little hit and miss, but I do think that those aged really well. So, for instance, like Mario Golf on N64, Golf on N64, and Mario Toadstool Tour. Is that what it was on
Yeah, I
GameCube?
think so.
I think both
Mhm.
of those games aged really, really well.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, no, that makes
uh,
sense. I was confused. I'm like, what do you mean by original and the other one? That makes more sense since you explained it. The N64 when you're talking about. I would say
yes,
also the
exactly.
Game Boy Color ones too. I don't know how those
Oh,
were.
those are RPGs. Those are actually RPGs, and they're really fun. And those have aged well because of the fact that they are very different from what we have now and from what the series became. Like Mario Tennis is like an RPG on Game Boy and Game Boy Color, and so is Mario Golf. And both of them are really fun because like you have to like upgrade your golfer and everything as you're like traveling through the like story, and it's cool.
hmm
I think those are very good because they're very different from anything else, and I think those did age quite well. I gotta download and play those though because I'm not 100% sure, but I do feel like they did.
I think they put them out on NSO if you have NSO.
I
Um,
do, but I didn't know they had it out, so I'll have to check.
I'm pretty sure that they did. You'll have to double check. Okay. Well, I mean, I guess we could Google.
Yeah, I'm
Maybe.
literally just gonna check right now. I wrote NSO and it says Nursery Services Organization. That's not what I'm looking for.
Yes, it is out.
Okay, maybe I'll give that a go then.
Mhm.
I'm looking for a reason to play my Switch games. My Switch again. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, at least yeah, it gives you a good chance. Because I know, and those ones that had some interesting link up stuff with the other ones. Although I don't think it's available on NSO like those features. But um, neat that they were available.
Hmm.
What other games? I feel like there's a lot to pick through, even just from those. I don't even know if we need to get into like past N64 PlayStation area, because I almost feel like we're gonna fill up this whole episode just talking about like the ones in those
Yeah,
generations.
yeah, I
Uh,
do think that as well. Hell, we can go back to Game Boy for a second. I think the Wario Land games aged really well, like Wario Land 3, which
Wario Land.
was
Actually, just to
eh,
throw a zinger in here, Wario Land for Virtual Boy, top notch.
really
That game,
okay.
yeah, that one I think is actually a lot of people will say that like that is the best Wario Land game.
Hmm.
And it's trapped on Virtual Boy. So a lot of people have not had the ability to experience it, but that game is excellent and it works really well. It's classic platforming Wario Land. And probably good for the same reasons that Mario games are still so good. Just because it does really well. I like Wario. What was it? Super Mario Land 3, Wario Land. Like I like that
Yep.
game a lot. I think that was a lot of fun. I
Have you seen Anton
destroyed the
Blast?
shit out of that game.
Sorry, I was gonna drop this real quick. I know we're in the middle of a game debate, but I'll say this. Have you seen Anton Blast?
Hmm? Mm-mm.
So I'm not gonna date this, but I'll say it's releasing soon on Switch, which is gonna date this by a little bit, because it'll probably already be out by the time I say this. It is supposed to be like an homage to Wario Land 3, and
Oh, cool.
I've seen a lot of people say that it is fantastic. It's kind of like Pizza Tower, but it's less about speed running and more about just like from like going from point A to point B, that sort of deal. So kind of like the original Wario Land. It's very good from everything I'm seeing. I'm thinking of buying it myself.
Mario Kart 64. I actually would say probably
What
more
about
so
Double
than Super
Dash?
Mario. I like 64 more than Double Dash
Okay,
for different reasons.
okay.
Um, Not that I think most Mario Kart games age well, so it's not that Double Dash is uh necessarily better or worse. Double Dash kind of falls in the same thing as I was saying, like we were just talking about Mario parties. Like
Hmm.
you have some like I think some very definitive additions. Double Dash, I think the problem was um I don't really it's not that it's bad, but the two character system I don't think is necessary. I think it's just kind of more of a just
Oh, I think
like an
it's awesome.
unnecessary
You
gimmick.
play that on multiplayer, it's an amazing gimmick. In fact, it feels like the game was made for it, and it feels great.
Oh, it's
I
cool
don't
for
know.
multiplayer. I don't disagree there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I just think it's
And I think
it
it has
really
some
depends
really
on the
great
tool you have.
tracks. I think it's really fun. Like a lot of really great tracks started there. My top of the charts for like Mario Kart, as long as we're
Mhm,
staying in the era that we're staying in and not going current Mario Kart, because it would be
mhm.
8 first, but whatever, would be probably Double Dash 64 for like things that are good.
Oh,
And then
between the two?
Double Dash and 64 would be my only two picks for good Mario Kart. From Super
Mm,
Nintendo to Game Boy Advance to, I guess, Wii, I would still pick Double Dash and 64 over everything else.
no. It this way. I agree. I would not put any SNES and Game Boy,
Yep.
definitely not Game Boy Advance on this list because that's my
Hmm.
least favorite of all of them.
Hmm.
I definitely think N64 still holds up incredibly well.
Yeah,
I think I'd
absolutely.
say Double Dash does too. I guess I don't think
That's
I'm
what I'm
just
trying to say. I
I,
mean, Double Dash is
yeah,
my favorite. It's still like
yeah.
one of my
Definitely not
favorites.
trying to exclude it from this list.
No,
So
no, no,
I mean
no.
it's
I know
good.
you're not. I'm
Yeah.
just saying. I think if I had to pick two that have aged incredibly well out of all
Mhm.
of them that we are in this lineup that we have here, it's Double Dash and N64. And I would put Double Dash slightly over it because I do think, like looking back on Double Dash, it did some things that is very innovative for the franchise. And you call it gimmick, but I thought the multiplayer aspect of it and the switching of carts and this, that, and the other worked out really well in Double Dash. That's all. I think that
Yeah.
aged really well. I think if I were to go like to like a convention or something,
Uh-huh.
and they had a bunch of GameCubes and Double Dash, I
Mhm.
know those fuckers would be full. Every single person
Oh
would be
yeah.
playing that motherfucker
No, I'm
because that
I'm sure
game
they
just
would.
aged so well.
I think well yeah, and that's the thing. It definitely is not like I said, I keep on getting myself in this mental spot where I keep on trying to like take like an opposition stance for some reason and I don't
That's
feel
how
that
you
way.
always respond to me. That's
I
it's
know,
just
I know. It's
you
just
play
me.
that
I know.
character when we're on the podcast, because that's just the only way you know to make things interesting, which is fine. I'm totally down for that. But like, you're more than welcome to be like, oh, let me go like devil's advocate here for a second, or like say something, like you normally do. Go for it. But if you're like, no, actually, bro's right, maybe we just do that for once and call it a day for that part of the conversation.
But I think what I'm trying to say in terms of like Mario Kart, in terms of like the accessibility between the two games. And I think it's just
yeah, N64, easy all day long. I don't disagree there, but like I think that's not necessarily a good or bad thing. I do think it's also a lot more exactly, and also I do think the accessibility and their what's the word I'm looking for, unwillingness to be like kind of innovative when it came to it was because when it came to the N64. They were banking on their graphics and the fact that it was 3D. That was like one of the first systems that Nintendo got out there alongside the PlayStation 1, that home console that had those 3D graphics. And I do think at that time Nintendo was more like, let's focus on the 3D graphics than trying to do something innovative. And then the innovation started coming with the GameCube. And in my opinion, and that started also like from the systems like inception. Like, who the fuck puts a handle on their console?
Yeah, but that's just different era at that time. Actually, I'm gonna jump multiplayer games for a moment.
Go for it.
Kind of. Star Fox 64. I think held up really well too.
Really? Really?
Yeah.
I gotta think on this one, because at the best of times, I don't super like Star Fox, so I got to think of this from like
as a series, or just as like that game in particular.
I don't like the Super Nintendo one. I don't like the one that was on Wii U. I don't like. I wouldn't
consider that one either.
Which other Star Fox games are there? I mean, like,
I guess
we could go Adventures, and I would again argue that Adventures is actually a really good game that aged really well.
I like Adventures. I don't think it held up well, and if you remember, I played through it pretty recently.
Okay. When I think about Adventures, I think about what's the other game you played very recently that had a remake come out? Beyond Good and Evil. Good and Evil. I think that when I think Adventures. So I'm sitting here thinking to myself, yeah, it had to have aged well, right? But again, I haven't played it recently. It was several years back. So, yeah.
Beyond Good and Evil and Adventures are similar. It gets tied up with a lot of rare bullshit, like
the collectible stuff, or what are we talking about? Yeah,
just really stupid collectible bullshit and backtracking.
Okay. Can I say it again?
Yeah.
That both the Banjo-Kazooie games and Katooie games on N64 aged really well, because it just has the right amount of rare bullshit in it to make it awesome and not overwhelming.
Yeah, and Adventures clearly had some issues with like things being cut and changed.
Because it was Dinosaur Planet initially. It wasn't even a Star Fox game. They just added Star Fox into it.
Planet. Microsoft's acquisition was like around
it's around the corner. Yeah,
like it was announced before the game had come out. So
I think you're right.
There's some dialogue in there that like it's like, hey, I do these things, but you never do those things. Like it's like there's definitely like features that probably were planned for release that I think were cut for time constraints so they could sign the contract and be like goodbye. But I think that the game still is playable today. I just think that it did not hold up as well as things. And I could even say you could even make a case for Beyond Good and Evil, kind of similarly too. But I think that one has aged better. It doesn't have quite as much bullshit. Like I think that game's pretty enjoyable just what it was. But Star Fox 64 though, like I mean that's the Star Fox. It's all like almost mostly like on rails missions with a couple like small like dogfight missions that are kind of in there as well. But it doesn't have any of the ground stuff. Like you're not on your feet. You're in a vehicle all the time. And then it has the we played so much fucking Star Fox multiplayer, Star Fox 64. Uh, when I was younger, like that was one of our go-to games. Like we had just a lot of fun, like dogfighting and
I
shooting
don't
and
even remember Star Fox 64 multiplayer, so that should tell you where I'm at with that one. I
yeah.
don't know. I think Star Fox has always been a series that's never really. What's the word I'm looking for? It's not that I don't like them when I do. It's just not one I've like seeked out, and I haven't like really returned to. I think the last time I played a Star Fox game, other than the horrible Wii U one, which I still
Mhm.
stand by as a horrible game, was the 3DS remake of Star Fox 64.
Which really they didn't change too terribly much in that one either.
I liked it, but like again, it was not something that I was like, all right, okay. It was just something I grabbed on a whim. In fact, I remember exactly what happened. I was working at Target at the time, and I just put out the new game and DVD releases, and I put that one out, and then I bought it before we opened the store, and then I played it on my lunch break.
um, yeah, but Star Fox 64, I think just kind of like the arcade style of it and like the branching paths and that kind of stuff. I think it's all really enjoyable. It's made to be played in like, a sitting and get through it pretty quickly. So and just kind of enjoy it and kind of score attack stuff. I think that game holds up really well. And I think the testament to that is actually the 3DS games. They really didn't change anything. They're like, here's the N64 game. Like it still plays the same. And even Miyamoto, when they want to do a sequel, when someone asked about doing a sequel for Star Fox 64, he's like, yep, I can't do anything better than this. Like it was like that. Like I think that's true. I think the game holds up really well. I mean, think about how much I mean, not that it really should qualify too much in here, but in terms of timeless, like Star Fox 64, maybe one of like the most like maybe not the most, but like a very well memed game too, just because it had such great dialogue
Oh
and
yeah,
just kind of a
absolutely.
lot of fun. Yeah.
I saw
Um,
more Star Fox 64 on a site called You're the Man Now Dog, if you remember that site or
oh
know of
yeah.
that site at all, than I ever actually saw when playing the game.
Fair. Trying to think what other games. Like, there's definitely no shortage. The limitation here is my brain, and not
Yeah,
the amount of games I think. Trying to think, if there's other ones. There's a bunch of games that I tend to go back to.
I
And this
kind
one,
of want to go to a Xbox 360 game and
oh,
PS3 game. I think Metal Gear Rising Revengeance is one of the best aged games of all time.
oh yeah.
Have you ever played it?
No, I have not.
All right, so I'm not gonna get too political or anything because I don't like doing that. But I swear to God, the main villain of that game is just Trump, and it's fucking hilarious because you like look at a lot of the things that happen in that game, and you look at real life, and you're like, holy fucking shit, Kojima, you must have been from the future when you made this motherfucker. Because like it even talks about like, for instance, how people are easily distracted by the things that are in front of them, and it's easy to manipulate people with things and whatnot. And like, I feel like computer screens, the internet, TikTok, shit like that. A lot of that, I mean, memes, for instance, a lot of that is talked about in Metal Gear Rising Revengeance before it actually like became mainstream and existed. And it's
Mhm.
kind of fucking wild because there's like an entire plot point about like fake news, for instance, in the game.
Yeah.
It's crazy how well that game has aged, to be completely honest. And it's also a really fucking fun game to go back to. Like you can play that game now. Like, but you
Mhm.
can play it on Steam, like through Steam Deck, or just on normal Steam. You can play it on Xbox 360, or I think it might be one of the back compat games for Series X and S. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I think it is. And even the combat of that, it's just so visceral and it's so different from anything we've gotten since then that it's like a breath of fresh air to go back and play it. It is a really, really, really good game. And I think it aged incredibly well.
Yeah. Uh,
It's
I
just
think some people.
Kojima being crazy.
Yeah, I think some people would also throw Snake Eater
Snake Eater is incredible.
Mm-hmm.
It does have its moments where it's like, this is some crazy Kojima bullshit that like probably wouldn't be accepted in modern games. Like, for instance, the like 8-minute long ladder climb, like that's pretty wild that he did that. But like, yeah. Otherwise, and I'm not saying that aged poorly. I think it aged really well because it's time to like end the song as you make it to the top of the ladder, and it really does it really does convey a message, essentially making you listen to the lyrics and listen to where you're climbing to, and it puts you in your own head after everything you've just done, and as you're going to go to the next part of the game. It is a really good moment, but I do think that it probably wouldn't fly nowadays because people don't have the patience for something like that. However, I do think the overall game is incredible and has aged really well. And after playing Silent Hill 2, which, by the way, I think has aged quite poorly when it comes to combat, but actually incredibly when it comes to like the story and whatnot. I don't really know a real way to do anything, like to say anything about that, because I do think the Silent Hill games aged really well when it comes to the content in them, but the actual playing of the game is kind of difficult to go back to. Like, I enjoy them, but I know a lot of people wouldn't. But I do know that a lot of the themes and messages of the Silent Hill games were very ahead of their time. And as such, I do think that aged really well, and I think we saw that again this year with the Silent Hill 2 remake, which I will definitely find a way to talk about probably in every single episode, because I still feel like I have to absolutely make up for me condemning it for an entire episode for no reason whatsoever there, other than I was just being fucking stupid. But I will continue to talk about that game because I love that game. But I will say, again, Silent Hill 2, especially, its story and themes were way ahead of their time and aged very, very well. And its gameplay, not so much. Tank controls are really hard to go back to. Same with like Resident Evil and stuff like that.
Yeah. What about something like StarCraft?
StarCraft, I would say yes to StarCraft, right? However, I would rather choose another Blizzard game that aged incredibly well. Because when I think of Blizzard games that aged incredibly well, the first one that always comes to mind is Diablo 2. I think Diablo 2 is so good. It is a game that, even if it didn't get a remake, which it did get a remake in case you guys forgot, it doesn't matter because it's so good that you could just go back to the original. Like, it is so good.
Well, that's how I feel about original StarCraft. I think I even played through that campaign.
You really like StarCraft, don't you?
I do really like StarCraft, yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. I like that.
I really like StarCraft. I think that game aged really well, because I don't think graphically, I don't think it really matters too much. I think it still plays really well. And I feel like, if anything, the StarCraft 2 is just kind of aping off of the original instead of like really setting too much out on its own. But yeah, I think that I think StarCraft 1 held up really well, at least from what I can
think the hub area for like StarCraft 2 aged like really well, because now you have like that kind of hub area centric place in like every game. Like, it's continued. Like, the first time I really remember like a big hub area where like you interact with everything to like initiate your games or like missions or whatever, I think of StarCraft 2 when I do think about that. So I do think in that respect, StarCraft 2 has aged really well as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking about other PC games now, because you brought up StarCraft 2, and I'm sitting here and I'm like, there are some PC games that aged incredibly well, but like I don't play them per se. But I will say this, for instance, League of Legends. I don't play League of Legends. League of Legends is like a fucking phenomenon right now, because of Arcane and the new season of Arcane that just released. And if you look, it's gotten a lot of people back into League of Legends, or they are getting into it for the first time. And that game has been around since like fucking, it feels like forever. When did League of Legends come out? Let's figure this out. That was a 2009 game. That game feels like for okay. I don't like League of Legends. I don't think League of Legends is good because I don't like MOBAs. It's just not for
Mhm.
me. I can recognize that it's a good game, but like the genre just automatically means it's not good for me. But
Yeah.
because of the fact that this game came out in 2009 and there are people still playing it today in 2024, I do think that game aged incredibly well.
Oh yeah,
I
definitely.
think I think Rocket League aged insanely well.
Oh yeah, that
That's
one's.
from 2015. That feels like it was just the other day because you still see Rocket League all the time. It's
Mhm.
an esport even right now. So like, I'm sitting here and I'm trying to think of like PC games in general that I think aged really well. And I'm coming coming back to one other game, but I can't come back to it because
Mhm.
I'm gonna actually not come back to it. We're gonna ignore that. Uh,
Okay.
in fact, we're gonna also ignore Rocket League because I wanted to mention Rocket League and I did, but I think I broke the rules because I don't know if Rocket League released on
I think it was
PS4 and
on PS4. Yeah.
okay, well then I'm gonna retract the Rocket League one, but I do think that looking at how old Rocket League is, I think I can be at
Still
least given a
notable.
little leadway for that one because
Yeah.
like that's 2015.
Honorable
That's like
mention.
almost 10 years ago now.
Mhm. Yeah. No, don't disagree with you there.
Yeah.
Um.
Oh, original Street Fighter 2, Street Fighter 2 original release, or Street Fighter 2 Turbo specifically. I still see that game in like arcades, and it's just, it's something I want to sit down and play. I don't mean the original Street Fighter, like Street Fighter 1, that aged incredibly poorly, or even the
Yeah.
original release of Street Fighter 2, that also aged pretty poorly because it's a much slower paced game. But Street Fighter 2 Turbo Edition, that aged incredibly well. It took them like 20 iterations to get it. So it's like, did it age well? Or like, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that, honestly, now that I think about it. Like, I said it because, like, I think of Street Fighter 2 when I think of fighting games. You know, I think of it like being timeless, but then I don't
Mhm.
think about all those iterations that it went through to get to that point. So then I'm like, wait, do I count the original release that was bad? Or do I count the original release that everyone gravitated to, and now, like 20 fucking years later, I still see people playing all the time? It's kind of hard when you think of it that way.
Yeah. But no fucking clue on the answer for that one. That's a tricky question. Yeah, because
Um,
there's so many.
yeah, right. I don't really know what to say for that one. But I will hop over to Dreamcast for a second because it's my favorite console of all time.
Oh yeah.
And I'll say Jet Set Radio is
Okay.
like that. It aged so fucking well. Like
Hmm.
you look at that game and you look at its graphics and it's so unique that it still stands out today, and it's still a really good game today. I play that game like once a year. Still,
Hmm.
it's one of my like three games that I will always go back to, either like yearly or bi-yearly,
Hmm.
and it's still so good. I don't know if you've ever played Jet Set Radio, but like that game is incredible. It's aged incredibly. And then piggybacking off of that, I want to go more into the extreme sports games that have also aged incredibly and go with Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2, 1, and 3. All three of those
Oh
games aged
yeah, that's
amazingly.
good. Yeah, those are great choices.
Hmm.
Actually, I don't remember which game made me think of this one, but Roller Coaster Tycoon.
I
Some of
fucking
those.
love Roller Coaster Tycoon.
Yeah, I love just fucking around with that game every once in a while.
Hmm. Hmm.
Lots of fun. Roller Coaster Tycoon 3 apparently came out in 2004, so it's definitely old enough.
That
Uh,
is insane to me.
mhm. It just came
It,
out. They just released it, re-released it on the Switch like
I
last
know,
week.
I saw. I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, so it's random. That might be a game I might just pick up for fun because I do like to fuck around with it every once in a while. But
Oh,
yeah, that one.
can we like have a sidebar and talk about games that we like think aged really well, but also feel like they literally just came out like yesterday? Because like you just brought up like for instance Roller Coaster Tycoon 3, and I was like scrolling through my games and I was like, BioShock. The original BioShock aged really well, in my opinion. I'm not sure if I'm wrong in that opinion, but I have played that like 3 years ago and I still really enjoyed it. I don't know how you feel though.
I played through it not that long ago either. Um, I mean, there's some things I don't like about it,
Okay.
but I do really like that game for a lot of
Anything
reasons.
in particular that stands out that you don't like about it?
It had something to do with like the shooting mechanics. Oh, I don't think it's the shooting mechanics themselves. Maybe more like the gunplay mechanics. I think maybe could use some tweaking, but I
Mm.
mean, I think it works well enough that it's not a deterrent.
Okay.
Um, but I think setting wise, incredible, like
Hmm.
unmatched. Game or story, fantastic.
Hmm.
Um, like I said, maybe some weaknesses in the gameplay aspect, but I
Hmm.
think that those are
But do you
not
think the
enough
weaknesses?
to
Yeah,
take
that's
away
what I was
from it.
gonna say. Exactly. Are they enough to take away from it, or is it something that's just like no? It's still incredible for what it
Yeah,
is.
I still think it does really well. Like I
Yeah.
said, it might lead to some frustrating moments, but
Hmm.
not anything that's unsurmountable.
Okay. Yeah,
Mhm.
I feel that same way, kind of. And I will say this because I was thinking of more games that are from 360 but feel like they came out like 2 days ago. Skyrim.
Oh yeah,
Skyrim is a game that's like kind of just unanimous with RPG games now.
yep.
And it aged so well that there are still people playing
Still
it to this
releasing it.
day, and it's still releasing to this day. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. I personally, again, this is another one where I'm like, I don't really like Skyrim that much, but I get it. I 100% get it. Like I
yeah.
understand why it is so beloved. I understand that it did age incredibly well, and that is something I could recognize, even if though it doesn't super appeal to me.
Yeah. There's still a lot.
There is so many, and I don't know how
Oh,
long
you didn't
we've
even
been
say Diddy
going.
Kong 64.
Oh,
Yeah.
no, you know what? Donkey Kong Country 1 through 3,
Oh yeah,
all
I
of
said I
them.
was going to talk about this week because I just played through Donkey Kong Country too. Um,
You
yeah.
said Diddy Kong Country 64, and I'm really confused what you were
Sorry, I was
trying
trying
to
to.
say.
I think I was overlapping things. I was trying to say
Yeah,
Diddy Kong
because
Racing.
I was like,
Is
I
what I was trying to
know
say.
he hates Donkey Kong 64. I know
Yes,
that wouldn't be on
definitely
this
not
list.
Donkey Kong 64. That was me
Your
just
feelings
bungling
on
words.
Donkey Kong 64 are mine towards Mario 64. So it's like, I know that's not something he's picking.
Yeah, no, but Diddy Kong Racing, I know, is one that you talked about
Diddy
last
Kong
time we talked about.
Racing is so good. I think it's better than Mario Kart 64. Hot take.
For some things, I think so. There's some things I think are better, some things I don't. But I do think it's timeless regardless. So
Hmm. Hmm.
mhm. Yeah. Yeah, that went a lot of fun stuff with it. So I did really like that one. Um trying to think. I because I feel like there's so much to talk about in this topic. I
There
don't
is
think
because I think you could go into more niche things like for instance Flash games, which I think still aged, some of them aged really well. So you
yeah.
got like Henry Stickmin, which I believe started as a Flash game, and then you have things like Alien Hominid, which was a Flash game to begin with.
Hmm.
I think there's a lot of things there that you could touch on, like some of the more iconic Flash games, which I'm going to look up because I don't even remember all their names. Yeah, like Fancy Pants Adventure, that sort of thing, which I do think that was from, or like uh, Line Rider. Was that it? Oh fuck, what was it called? Balloon's Tower Defense started as a Flash game, and like there's a lot of things that are Flash games that like really hold up well. That then also got made. They held up so well they got made into actual games. And I
Hmm.
think that really says something about the those games in general.
Oh yeah, definitely. Um, I know. I feel like there's just still so many games that I'm forgetting. Um, just even as I'm like looking through lists of games.
I mean, like we could go into PS2 territory. That there's like an infinite amount there, like the Katamari games, which just got re-released on consoles. The Katamari series as a whole, I think, has aged very, very well.
Yes.
You
Hmm.
sit down and play those games, and like they're still the same thing that they were back when they first released, and they're still very quirky and different from anything else on the market, and they're still just a lot of fun to play.
Yeah. Game Boy Advance had a lot of timeless games too, which we have
Yep.
we haven't even really treaded into that system. From I think both the Metroid games on that system are fantastic. You really have some fantastic Pokemon games there.
I was just about to say we haven't said a single thing about Pokemon games.
Mhm. Well, because we
Which
were really focusing on the older systems. And I was thinking about it, like the
Game Boy.
Game Boy one's not super exciting. Like I think that a lot of people can appreciate the older Game Boy ones, but they're not as approachable. But I think the Game Boy Advance ones, I think, are really where they really kind of got things going in the right direction, like, and held it there. Because like the remakes of Fire Red and Leaf Green, phenomenal. So, they had a lot of great stuff in there. But then too, you also have things on the Game Boy Advance like WarioWare, fantastic game,
so good, so good.
Mm-hmm.
I love the WarioWare games.
Yeah, and I think even some of the strategy stuff that was on Game Boy Advance held up really well, like Fire Emblems and the Advance Wars. I think those games hold up really well. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of like really good stuff. I actually, we were talking about the Mario stuff there too, because I think all those releases were really good too. But yeah, I think a lot of the Game Boy stuff are really good. Mario and Luigi, Superstar Saga, fantastic.
Yep.
I think that's one of the best Mario RPGs. And that game holds up really well, even on the Game Boy. Yeah, so that I think
a lot of Game Boy Advance games in general are just hold up. Like I think Game Boy Advance is a very sweet spot where a lot of the games that released on there, Golden Sun, like those games, they're great. Like Sun. You can go back
1 and 2.
Yeah, you can go back to them and they're still just fantastic games. I do think there's a lot more hits than misses when it comes to the Game Boy Advance releases of games. Damn, like I'm sitting here and I'm thinking like, because that's like probably one of your favorite games, because that's Zero Mission, isn't it?
Oh yeah, Zero Mission is one of my favorites. I've played through that game.
Yeah,
maybe once a year.
That's Game Boy Advance. That's right there.
Yep.
And even though like my favorite games are on the original Xbox and Dreamcast, it's fantastic. And I'm sitting here and I'm thinking also, I was thinking of some other games that I didn't mention on PC, and I was like sitting here and I'm browsing through my Steam library and I'm like, I know there are some, and that are PC specific, and I'm like, what the fuck are they? And then my brain went, hey, dumbass, those games are like 15 years old. And now I'm going to say it, and you're going to be like, yep, I agree. Portal.
Yeah.
Portal 2. Half-Life and Half-Life 2. All of those games, I mean, Left 4 Dead games, all of those games aged incredibly well. Still have a massive player base. They all have a massive player base. They all are like very PC-centric games, even though they did release on the Orange Box on 360 and PlayStation 3. But like all of those games, and I don't know why I didn't think of them, but like they definitely, I think I just take them for granted because I just see them everywhere, and I'm just like, yeah, this is that's just a game. Like, I don't think that's a game that came out like 20 fucking years ago, 15 years ago, or something like that. I just think, yeah, that's fucking Half-Life. But I never really sat down and thought, oh shit, that's fucking Half-Life from like 15, 20 years ago. What the fuck? And I was just thinking the same thing about Halo 2 and 3 as well. I think the Halo series as a whole, like the first 3, 1, 2, and 3, and Reach, like they aged very, very well as well. I still have friends that will go back and play those games, and they're fucking great. Those are some games I grew up with.
Yeah.
Damn, dude. I'm like now thinking about it, and there's so many other games that we didn't like think about. Like neither of us mentioned anything by Kirby. Kirby games are pretty much timeless. They don't age. Like
nope.
At all.
I was looking at that through those two, and I was like, well, which one I would put in there? And it probably would be, what was the one for Super Nintendo if I was going to pick one?
Yep, that's what I was thinking. The one that's like the Kirby collection, like of the Super Mario World collection thing that they had, that I can't remember the name of.
I wasn't a big fan of the N64 Kirby, I would say.
It's fine. Like, if you look at it now, it doesn't look bad. It doesn't look like it would be a bad game.
It's not. The graphics aren't my problem with it. Same with, like, actually the
Yoshi's
gameplay.
Story.
Yeah, Yoshi's Story, I think looks good. I have issues with the gameplay on that one as well.
Okay.
But Kirby 64 specifically is just very slow. And that was my issue with it. Like, you are you might as well be like geriatric Kirby. Like, just, get your wheelchair after them. Like, I just feel like compared to the other ones, you just move like monumentally slow.
So let me ask you this question, because I feel like
Mhm.
some people, when it comes to this game, they'll be like, it didn't age well, or it was never good.
Hmm.
Where do you stand on Shadow of the Colossus, like as a whole?
Oh, I would say it aged okay.
Okay.
I don't think I'd put it up as like aged great, but I don't
Hmm.
think it aged poorly either, if that makes sense.
Okay. All right.
I think last time I played it, I thought it was still very playable and it didn't really have any like significant issues to it. Just
Okay.
wasn't anything that I would be like, yes, this did exceptionally well.
Okay.
Um,
I think it would be in my top 50. I don't think it would be in my top 20. I
okay,
do think
yeah,
it aged really well, though.
yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah, a fair place to put it. Um, there's a lot of I think games with, and this is not a well, I guess maybe kind of Shadow of the Colossus ish. A lot of kind of like sequels I think did age a lot better than like the originals. I mean, we obviously were talking about that with fighting games, but um, you think about kind of like I just had a really good example and I lost it now too. Um, where was it? I was to say like Resident Evil 4 was kind of one thing that came off to my top of my head, but that was not the one I was reaching for. Um, or Uncharted 2 is what I was going for. Um, 'cause that was still PlayStation 3. Like those
Oh,
kind of things,
well,
yeah.
we said not PS4 and PS5.
Yeah.
So like the Uncharted games, 2 and 3, yes. 1,
Hmm.
fuck no. 1 is
No,
really poorly
abysmal.
aged.
Yes. Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one did not. But I feel like that, especially with like a lot of Sony stuff, like a lot of their kind of first games, and maybe not so much, but the sequels generally did really well. Like it's kind of
I think
was
the
proof of
outliers
concept.
are the God of War games. 1, 2, and 3 are all fantastic. Every single one of them. You could still go back and play each one of them, and it's still awesome.
Two, as I think, is great. One had some issues,
Really?
especially near the end game.
A serious
Yeah,
question, because I thought 1 was phenomenal. Again, now I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, was I thinking of the PlayStation 3 version, or
I played the
was I thinking of
PlayStation
the
3
original?
version.
What?
I said I played the PlayStation 3 version.
Oh no, the PlayStation 3 version of 1.
I know. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, you're saying it had issues in the PS3 version?
Yeah,
I
I'm
don't
saying
think I.
the core gameplay issue existed
Uh,
across all generations. I
oh,
think. I think it's kind of
I
one of the. It's the same to me. It's not as egregious as say
okay.
Uncharted, where it's like I would not say God of War's flat out unplayable compared to like Uncharted. I just would say that comparatively,
Can
two
you
is
even like
definitely a
tell
timeless
me like?
game.
I
One
think
had
2 is
issues.
just an incredible game overall. Like
Oh yeah,
2 is like top of the top of the charts for my favorite games. Like 2 and 3, God of War are like probably in my top like 20 or so
oh
games
yeah,
like
great
ever
games.
made. Easy. But my thing I'm trying to think of right now is like what made 1 not be as timeless. That's what I'm trying to figure out. Is just the fact that it was the first game? Because I would never even have Uncharted 1 and God of War 1 in the same conversation ever. Like I don't think I could ever do that. I just think that's like insane, personally. But
Yeah,
I don't
I'm
know
not saying
exactly.
God of War is
No,
equivalent
no, no,
to
no, 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 no,
Uncharted
no, no,
One.
no, no. I understand that. I understand that, but I don't think I would ever have them in the same conversation. So I'm trying to figure out what brought it to that same conversation. Like, what is so what not egregious is the word I'm looking for, but what stood out so much to you about the first one? Was it like the polish? Was it the boss
For God of
fights?
War
Was
One.
it yeah? For God of War 1, because you told me the ending, but I'm trying to like figure out like what about
There's some
the ending.
bullshit platforming stuff in the end of God of War.
Was this the blades that you have to get by as you're like
One part
climbing
of
up
it.
the?
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
That
I
whole kind
do
of section around there. Yeah.
that stands out to me, but I don't remember that being. I thought that was in 2. I'm gonna be honest. I
No,
thought
that
that
one's
was in
definitely
2.
one. Yeah.
Okay, okay, okay.
I don't remember those
Um,
issues in two, but I at this point I don't really remember a ton about that game either.
no,
I just remember enjoying it.
I think I understand if that was what you're talking about specifically. I think I understand. Which makes me go to another PlayStation franchise that I think ooh, has aged incredibly well. I'm gonna say the entire franchise. There's only 2 games though, so it's kind of hard to fuck it up. I think the Parappa the Rapper games are incredible, and going back to them is so much fun. Have you
Um,
played them?
I have. I don't. agree, but I have not played them recently enough to really have a strong stance on it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's how I'll leave it. Oh no, I think the last time I played it was on the Vita, and that one had issues, if I remember.
That would make sense.
Mhm.
I seem to remember the emulation on the Vita was hit and miss when it came to like PlayStation 1 releases on it. So
I don't think it was a PlayStation 1 I think it was a re-release.
I don't think they re-released it on Vita. I think it was only on PS4. I'd have to double check, but I think it was only on PS4.
Or was it a Vita, or not a Vita, PSP game?
It says there was a PS Portable one, but I don't know what it was called. Let me check, okay?
I'm on the Wikipedia right now, so I'm looking.
I do not remember this at all. What the fuck?
Yeah, so it was released for PSP in 2006.
Yep.
And then there was a remaster for PlayStation 4, but I didn't play that one.
I played the remaster. It's very, very good.
Yeah, so I must have been playing the PSP version.
Yeah, I never played the. I'll say this: I cannot attest to the PSP version because I have never played it. I have played the original PS2. I have played the PS4 remake, and I have played the second game. And I think all of them are great.
Well, I'm Jammer Lammy.
I've played that as well. No. There was a Parappa the Rapper too.
Well, it's just clarifying which one you were talking about.
Okay, you know what? I think Jammer Lammy was also pretty good, but I don't think it aged as well as Parappa the Rapper.
No, probably
not. I know someone recently, like a few, like maybe last year or maybe a year before last, found like the original arcade cabinet, the unreleased arcade cabinet of Unjammer Lammy, because they were going to release an arcade cabinet of it. That was pretty cool. Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Anyways, I think.
Yeah. I think I got nothing else to say, but I'm going to rattle off a few things very, very quickly that come to mind. Ready?
Okay.
Knights of the Old Republic.
Okay.
Final Fantasy X.
Sure.
Earthbound.
Definitely. I was going to bring that one up.
Original Metal Gear Solid and Metal Gear Solid 2.
I've never played the PlayStation version.
Okay.
But I don't inherently disagree to it. Second one, though, probably fine.
Okay. I'm going to say this one because it actually re-released today, which is wild to me.
Yeah.
Jak and Daxter.
What did it come out on today?
PS5.
Oh. But it was released like the original one?
Yeah, the native instead of streaming.
Oh.
And all the Sly Cooper games also released on PS5 today.
So my thing with those, a lot of Sony franchises, and I feel like this with Jak and Daxter, Sly Cooper, and
don't say Spyro. I was gonna say don't say Spyro. Spyro, I think, is one of the best aged games ever.
No, but I was gonna say with all three, like pretty much with most Sony franchises, I feel like the first game not timeless, second game yes. And I distinctly remember thinking of that about Jak and Daxter, and I cannot tell you why.
I actually kind of disagree with you here because I think the first game is something that sticks in my mind as a timeless mascot platformer, and then the second game tried to be edgy 2000s kind of game. And they kind of pulled that back for the later ones a little bit, but then they really went into it for the next one. But I don't know, I felt like the first one was a really good mascot platformer, and it's what comes to mind when I think of Jak and Daxter. And then the second one, I think of the emo goth hot topic phase. I don't think it's a bad game, but I think that it's probably aged poorly because it feels like it was trying to be edgy.
I agree with you on the edgy side of things. I think that part aged poorly, but I think the gameplay was much better in the second one, and I don't remember why, so I can't explain more.
No, you're probably right. You're probably right. I just think that the actual tone of the game probably aged poorly for the second one.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, and especially, and it gets even worse as you go into 3 and X. I feel like.
Yep.
That I do remember, but I don't remember because I went through and when all those collections came out. I don't remember when it was on PS3, but I played through all of them at that time. That's when I made that recollection of that. But like I said, I don't remember exactly what it was, but I remember there was with all 3 games. I remember there was a distinct issue with the first game that was rectified in the second game. But I just don't remember what they are. I just remember being like, "Oh yeah, this is so much better now. They fixed this bullshit." But yeah,
Maybe I'll try it and figure it out for myself. But in the meantime, still gonna go rattle off some more that
yes.
stood out in my mind.
Rattle off
Uh,
before I cut you off.
oh, whoa. Okay. Um, the Kingdom Hearts first 3 games. No, 2 games. Sorry, not 3. First 2 games. Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2.
I'd say maybe 2 more than 1. But
Okay,
yeah.
that's also totally fair.
Mm-hmm.
Monkey Island, Secret of Monkey Island.
That one's good. Yes.
Resident Evil 4.
I already said it, but yeah.
Okay, I missed that. My bad. Come on. Animal Crossing, GameCube.
Yeah, I'd say so. I actually think all the Animal Crossings did.
I do too. Psychonauts.
Yep.
Fuck, let me think. SSX 3 and Tricky.
Yeah, I think a lot of those kind of trick sports games I think do well. I mean, you can also say the same about 1080 and waivers.
Yep, I agree. And I think the last one I'm going to say are Paper Mario 1000 Year Door. Z.
Oh yeah, that one does well. Absolutely.
There we go. That's it for me. That's it. That's the last I got. Just wanted to rattle off some really quickly.
Those are good. And the thing is, though, like even with that, there's still tons of games we missed.
There's
like, I think
so many more.
We could do a whole another game debate on this topic.
This could be like a 4-hour, 6-hour episode.
Yeah.
Easily.
And I think this will be one of those. I think this will be a topic. I'll leave it on our game debate list because I could see
I really want to come back to this
in like a little bit of time, like not immediately, but like maybe next year, when we have time for another game debate. Like this would be a perfect topic to kind of go back, or even some of the sub kind of directions too, where you could talk about games that were really highly really highly rated when they came out, but age poorly. I think that would also be kind of like a nice opposite game debate to kind of go with this.
We'll just call that one the GoldenEye 007 game debate.
Yeah, there's definitely some stuff that should fall in that category. But yeah. And when I was saying, rattle them out before I cut you off, like I say, it was more just about, I feel like we could talk about this topic for a billion hours unless we gave ourselves some limits.
Yeah, we definitely could.
On that note, though, you ready to wrap up?
Yep.
Okay. Well, thank you everyone for listening to us tonight. Don't forget to find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Google, Amazon, wherever you get your podcasts. If you want to check out all of our old episodes, they are on game-crunch.com. If you want to send us an email, gamecrunchcast@gmail.com. Brandon?
Yep.
Any final thoughts?
No, just there's a lot of games that age very well. And I think when I think back on that, I'd rather just be playing those games than several of the ones that released this year.
Yeah, I mean, I go back to old games like all the time. I feel like a decent chunk of my year to year is like old games, and then I also have a bunch of new games. I feel like pretty regularly.
Yeah,
I agree with you 100%. Like there's a lot of good stuff that you just can't replace. So
definitely.
But I also think that's why we see so many re-releases and remakes too, just because that stuff is so timeless. Because they know that they can, make a quality game just by polishing up some graphics here and there. So
I think that's why Silent Hill 2 is like the remake is so good.
Yep. Yeah, Silent Hill. Yeah, it's a good example of that too. And I mentally tried to stay away. I don't think I listed any like real games from like PlayStation 3 on this list. Or like
I mean, we could have gone through like the entire
yeah.
Killzone franchise. That whole shit is awesome. I could have talked about the Splinter Cell series.
That one falls in that.
That's PS2. That's PS2. That's not PS3.
Garbage. Oh,
that's PS2.
You said all the Killzone games.
No. You said you specifically mentioned the PS3 era, and I said all the.
No,
Killzone
I know, but
games,
then you said
meaning,
all the Killzone games.
Yeah, I meant from the PS3 era. Games. Yeah, no. I meant from the PS3 era because those are all really good.
I think they re-released them as like a 3-pack there too, and that's where I played it on the first time, and it sucked. So
okay, maybe I don't remember. Game. I do not remember, but I could have also mentioned like Resistance, Fall of Man. Something like that. Like, there's plenty of games that were on the PS3 that are kind of stuck on the PS3 even that were really good.
Oh yeah, yeah. So we'll have to come back to this topic because there's more, and we'll have to devolve out into further consoles and generations and things. All right. Any other final thoughts?
Nope. I think I'm good.
Okay. That said, my name is Mike Anastasia. You can find me online in Clash of Ping with Air or your favorite gaming console. And until next week, game on.
Game on.
Turn up the volume, it's time to cheer. Game crunch is here, 600's near. From pixels bright to heroes bold, a legacy that's never getting old. Joystick wizards and controller kings, and the sounds fly on digital wings. Through every quest and every stage, game on echoes through the age. Game crunch, victory lights the way. Game on, we shout every single day. 600 strong, the legends grow in this pixel world we know. Through 8-bit tunes and 16 dreams, every episode a gamer's theme. From consoles old to screens so bright, game on brings the night to life. Game crunch, victory lights the way. Game on, we shout every single day. 600 strong, the legends grow in this pixel world we know. Journey through the lands of lore, unlocking tales unheard before. From pockets past to VR skies, game on, the spirit never dies. Game crunch, victory lights the way. Game on, we shout every single day. 600 strong, the legends grow in this pixel world we know. Game crunch, victory lights the way. Game on, we shout every single day. 600 strong, the legends grow in this pixel world we know. We know. Journey through the lands of lore. Journey through the lands of lore, unlocking tales unheard before. From arcades past to VR skies, game on, the spirit never dies.
Slowly but surely pull myself away from something. Like I've been relying a lot less on
It's
YouTube
difficult when I
lately.
have like, oh, I love YouTube. We still watched YouTube when we
I do,
when
but I'm
we
not
had
watching
the ability to.
a lot of the same stuff on there like I have been.
Ah,
I've been
okay.
pulling myself into more
I watched a 4-hour video
mhm.
where this is literally what I watched while we were on the trip at one point. We watched a 4-hour video that was called Mario Party 2 the movie, where these 4 YouTubers remade Mario Party, mini games and all, in their backyard. And like they redid it like incredibly well. And the reason why it was Mario Party 2 is because they did this before last year as well. It cost them like fucking $20,000 to do it, but they went all out. They had like costumes, they had all the boards, like the like little dots for like red spaces, blue spaces, placed throughout the entire like building that they had for the actual event. They had like the literal like checkered boards that like mini games would take place on. They had like those recreated, and then like the carts recreated exactly. They had like the Boo thing where like Boo like sees you if you like if you like the red light green light thing, but instead of actually being in a real barrel, they had like what do you call it, like cardboard barrels in front of them, and like they had to like hold up the cardboard barrels when they were walking, and then they wouldn't know when Boo would turn around, and when it did, the person that was playing the Boo was inside one of those like bouncy balls, you know, those ones that you get inside of, that's like they're inflatable and everything, and you would normally like roll in them. Yeah, it was a Zorb, and they just ran straight into them with their chain chomp costume and knocked them off the board. It's like I have to send you the video because it is incredibly cool what they were able to do. So
that sounds really fun. Kind of remind you know, another good one you could probably do with the Zorb is that one Mario Party, I think it was one game where like one person's like a bowling ball and everyone else is a pin and they got to get out of the way.
Dude, it was incredible the amount of things they were able to do. Obviously, they put their own spin on it because they're like very raunchy. They're very like very like edgy kind of humor. Like I like them because they feel like original YouTube, to be completely honest. But they literally like had a guy running around with the dice blocks dressed as Toad, doing the Toad voice, and like giving them the dice blocks to roll and everything. It's crazy the amount of effort they put into the actual like video. So like they even have like on the bottom of the video at all times, they update like the coin amounts that each player is getting and all of that stuff. But then like they have their own like raunchy, like very risque like story and everything where like people are fucking over each other because it's Mario Party and they're like forming alliances trying to fuck each other over, and it's really good. And like it's Mario's party, but Mario is a recovering alcoholic, but he's not very good at being a recovering alcoholic, so he's constantly getting drunk at the Mario Party, and he's really bad at all the mini games and everything else because of it. But he's like, my name's on the fucking billboard. None of you bitches can say that. It's my party. It's like, it's really good. The whole video is fantastic. I highly recommend, like, just at least skimming through some of it to see how much effort they put in, because it is a crazy amount of effort.
Yeah, I'll take a look. Oh, he only came out 3 days ago. Wow.
Yeah, I literally watched it the day it released. So like, these guys are some of my favorite YouTubers right now, so I watch their shit like all the time when it comes out. So give them a check and get back to me and let me know what you think of the Mario Party movie too.
Yeah, we'll do.
All right,
do that.
You go do what you need to do. I'm gonna go get food. Bye bye.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm doing. I'm going to eat too. All right.
I'm also going to play my friend's game that just released, which is Indiana Jones. My buddy just released that
yesterday.
Yeah, he worked on it. My friend worked on it, and he was like, I've been so fucking nervous about my game. And I was like, okay, well, what is it? And like the other day, he's like, Indiana Jones. I was like, bro, get the fuck out of here. I got disconnected. I'm sorry.
I was just like, wow, Brad is an asshole.
I was like, yeah, bro, get the fuck out of here. And he's like, yeah, no, I've been working on it for 5 years. I was like, holy shit, man. He's like, yeah, but I don't know how like the general public's going to receive it. I think I posted that in our chat, didn't I?
I remember you mentioning something about your working on it.
Yeah, he's very happy to see that it's been received well.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Yeah, I definitely was like, well, I'm like, good thing to use my Game Pass on while I still have it. So
yeah, that's what I'm gonna play it on. I installed it before the podcast started.
Yeah,
I'm gonna check it out now.
I think I downloaded.
I've heard nothing but good things about it from everyone that's played it, so pretty excited.
Yeah, I at least the reviews I've seen were pretty good. So, yeah, I'm well, like I said, I'm gonna try to get it installed right now. Let's see if I remember to play it. That's gonna be my tricky thing. But yeah, I've heard good things as well. So.
Yep.
Okay. Right. Anyways, I gotta go. I gotta eat.
See you around.
All right,
Bye.
see you, man. Have a good night.
You too.